Ready to do this.
All right, let's come in here then. Welcome to the show. Let's transition over to our faces and turn the music off and say all the behind-the-scenes stuff that we do as we're doing it. Yeah.
I am now hitting the F key, the R key.
I am now tweeting out the show, which I actually am. And now I am adjusting my jeans.
Thanks for listening to the show. We'll be back next week. I am now ending the show.
Read dialogue line and wait for Ben's response.
Stick to the script, goddammit.
What you been up to? I haven't seen a whole lot of games talk on your Twitter.
Yeah, because I was following the NBA playoffs, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, that didn't last long, did it?
Another heartbreaking year. Fuck.
It's that's got to be the most frustrating thing as a Clippers fan, because it's like,
being a Clippers fan.
Yeah,
just everything about it.
I forget what the stat was. They were talking about them on Mike and Mike. It's something about like they've got the most.
They've blown more leads in the playoffs. Like they've blown leads in the last 5 years.
They've got like a record for going to playoffs and not going anywhere once they've gotten there. Like
they've never been to a conference final. Mm-hmm. And they're just notoriously like they get like terrible injuries at like the worst possible.
Well, that's
moment.
what I mean. So frustrating about, because it would be one thing if you were like, I don't know, like my Indians usually where the Browns don't make the playoffs, but Blue Jacket, where it's like every now and then you make the playoffs, but you're never really that good. It's just sometimes you back your way in, and then you're like, well, our team still sucks. But it's like your team, you can't even get a real good reading off of it, because as soon as you hit the playoffs, it's like, oh yeah, three of our top guys just like got decapitated. Yeah,
it's always like, but it's not even like tragic like that. It's like guy looks like he stubbed his toe, and then like at halftime they'll be like, no, he actually broke every bone in his foot.
Right.
By tripping on a shoelace, and he's out. He's done for 2 seasons.
Yeah, was it the playoffs when Blake Griffin punched the like wall or something, or a guy and broke his hand?
He punched a trainer earlier in the season.
Oh, that was at the beginning.
And then he finally came back in time for the playoffs. And then the same game, him and Chris Paul are the 2 best players on the team. I'm going to try to keep this short because I know anyone who watches this shit doesn't care about basketball. They probably don't even care about this show, honestly.
Well, but if we want to tie it in real quick for them, it's just like the LA Clippers playoff season's the Dark Souls of the NBA.
No, because Dark Souls is rewarding and fun and good. But Blake Griffin came back, and then him and Chris Paul both got hurt in the same game. I think it was 2 or 3 against the Trailblazers. And Chris Paul got his finger caught on a guy's jersey and broke his hand. And Blake Griffin fucked up his quad, I think. And they were both done.
Yeah.
And then this season, Chris Paul was the only Clipper who looked like he was ready for the playoffs. He played really well. But Blake Griffin broke his fucking toe.
Yeah.
So
like it was game 1, wasn't it? Didn't he start game 1 and it was just like
it was game 3, I think. But game 1, like this was a bad series in every respect, because game 1, the Jazz lost their best defender in the first 20 seconds and won that game somehow. And then and it's just, you watch any sort of sport, you see things happen and you see teams hold leads and like effectively gain momentum and win series. And I just watch these other teams and feel jealous, because anytime I'm like, I know the Clippers aren't capable of doing that. So they win game 6 on the road to force a game 7. You're going back home for game 7. You'd think they would have all the momentum, and they got like blown out by like 20 most of that game. And it was just like...
And that's the weirdest thing is it's like you got these injuries, so it's like, well, the injuries don't help. But even when like the players are there, when they're not, it's not like such a night and day thing that you can 100% be like, okay, next year if we're healthy, it's like...
Well, no, now we're at the part where like the renaissance has already happened. Well, like they've already peaked.
Right.
So... now it's at a case where you have to give these guys who are like getting fucking hurt in the playoffs, or they're so expensive that you can't build around them. Like now they're at a point where they have to pay out the ass to keep these people, but then like they're not going to be able to keep everyone. So they're going to be an even worse team.
Yeah. Well, they from what the sounds of it is nobody will be real surprised if both Chris Paul and Blake Griffin like go elsewhere. Although it sounds like they can make the most money staying.
Right. Like, and that's like, if they want to win, I said like they have to leave. They almost have to.
Right.
Because they're not going to win a championship here. And I wouldn't be like a hateful fan if they did. But like honestly, I think they should, because money is like you'll have plenty of money being a good NBA player.
And it comes down to the I know LeBron faced this a couple times in his career where it's like, well, I get the most money if I stay, but then my team doesn't have any money left to put anybody around me. So
right.
Yeah,
and that's where they are.
And some players think that's great. I just want the most money I can get, and other players are like, no, I want players around me. Like NBA is interesting in that respect.
Yeah, I probably know way more about like salary cap stuff in NBA than I do in any other sport, just because the Clippers are so bad at it. So you have to pay attention to it. Like I don't think they have like the problem is they don't really have a choice. They have to go after trying to keep all these expensive guys, but like even as good as they are, you're going to have less people to help around them. So the quality is just going to keep declining.
Well, what they have to hope is some of these teams like Golden State and Cleveland, like their planes crash on the runway, like run into each other. And it's like, all right.
No, they have to hope for like other teams somehow don't like keep getting better. And they have to hope that like eventually these other teams can't afford all their good players, like the Warriors and stuff. But the problem with the Clippers is you keep doing what you're doing every year, which is better than what the Clippers were for 30 years.
Right.
But it's still it's heartbreaking, and now we're at a point where like the honeymoon's kind of over, and it's like I would like to win some shit in the playoffs. Like even if they got just swept by the Warriors in the second round, it's like I would prefer that than losing this last series. But I think they're going to get worse, and you have to go after them because you don't have like a draft pick until like 2021. They've traded them all. They've given up everything for this group. And now it's like you can't even like say fuck it and rebuild.
And it sucks because in their defense, like who would have expected Golden State to become what they did? That was kind of out of nowhere too. And
I would see it coming. What's fucked up about Golden State is they got lucky, but not in terms of like talent and like they have great shooters and stuff. Like they are the best team, but they got lucky in the sense that they can afford all of it. Mm-hmm. There's no reason if Steph Curry hadn't gotten hurt when he had, the Warriors would be paying him out the ass to keep him. And now they have this perfect storm of like really good players who are all winning together and are going to want to keep winning together. So they're all going to take a pay cut, which never fucking happens unless you somehow lucked yourself into getting the roster beforehand. Yeah, and after once it's all said and done, like normally in NBA seasons, like I keep watching even after my team gets knocked out. And this is like the first time, like after Game 7, I couldn't even watch all of Game 7. It was so bad. I was just like, why do I even do this to myself? Like, why do I fucking follow sports at all?
Yeah.
So I actually have been playing shit. But I just haven't been tweeting about it.
Yeah, because you're too depressed to like connect. Right.
Like I can't make any of it funny because like it's the world's falling apart, and then sports didn't help, and now video games are my only solitude.
Yeah.
But I have played more Nier. Finally. Like I did like kind of the first main area after the intro. It's like this desert, and did kind of a boss fight. But it's more like a cinematic sort of like introducing you to one of the main enemy things, I think.
That like one of the big buzzsaw arm things, or
no, that's the intro. That's the like tutorial boss and stuff, and that's a pretty fun fight. But like this is just like a dude, and he like you started like it's fucked up. There's so much parts of this game where like I don't want to beat up the robots, and like they don't do anything to you. So you just go into this area, but the game won't let you continue until you start fucking them all up. Or you need items from them or something. So like you're constantly doing that shit and just feeling like an asshole because these robots are all really cool. Because they think they're people. It's adorable.
Those little like trash can looking robot things.
Yeah. Like you go into like a pit, like the boss in this area. You go into this pit, and like the robots are dancing and pretending to have sex and pretending to take care of baby. Like they're just doing like they
Human
have all
stuff.
the information of everything that is human,
Yeah.
and they're trying to do it all at once. And they're like it's a really fascinating thing, but they don't try to do anything to you until like. So I try not to attack until they fuck with me, because it's just this weird like
you feel bad.
Weird thing.
Yeah,
it's this weird thing the game's doing. It's not like a moral system. It's just they're doing enough to make these things likable that I don't want to fuck them up until they start shit. And then like the boss is like a humanoid thing that like all these like trash can robots get together and create like a fucking egg, and it's really weird. And then the egg opens, and then like this humanoid robot fucking falls down, and he's completely naked and like doesn't have a penis, and it's really weird. And
I think it'd be weirder if he did though. Like,
well, not that's your only clue that it's not human.
Yeah,
but it's still strange. Like I don't know what the fuck the trash can robots made, and why this like human replica thing comes out. This fucking white-haired Ken doll, and then like it's the same thing. Like this thing doesn't attack you right away. Like you have to start shit. And then he's like, why, he's just like, why fight? And then he starts like processing information. Like as the more you beat him up, he's like, all right, sword counter, projectile deflect. And then like, he's like rapidly learning how to fight.
So basically you're fighting an infant that didn't do anything to you. Like it's like a toddler that's just learning about the world. And it's like, so its very first lesson is like, Ben's an asshole.
Right. Basically, like, and that's the fucked up thing about this story is like constantly, like all the support around you, like you feel like the bad guy a little bit in the beginning, because all these characters are in your ear saying like they don't actually feel shit, attack, like, and you can't be sure. Like at this point, like it's too early in the story to say, what these things know and what side, is actually the good side. And because there are robots in the game who are friendly, straight up friendly, like want to sell you shit, and it's really strange. It's really fun to play, but I have found that like kind of once you get into the main game proper, it's a little too open for me. And it's the type of game that will give you like a bunch of side quests and stuff, like to just go collect parts and stuff. And all that stuff will show up on your map, but your map's kind of fucking useless. It's just like all the menus and stuff and everything in the game is so brown that to have a map that is like more brown and just like barely showing you the geometry of the area you're in is like, this is a piece of shit map. And then the areas are just really big, and like it's like there's constantly items and stuff, and there's that like completionist part of me, like I don't want to miss anything important. And then you realize like everything I just spent like an extra 20 minutes dashing around this area just to get like extra health potions that I don't need. So yeah, I wish the game like communicated like, where important shit was a little better, because right now it's just kind of that like go into this giant area, and if you see a glowing thing on the way, pick it up, but mostly just like go straight to the fucking X.
Yeah.
But there's just miles of shit all around you that like, luckily the desert area has this cool part where it's like it's really huge and there's tons of items in there, but you like sand slide like you kind of do in Journey.
Yeah.
And it's
surfing.
Yeah, and it's really fun and cool, and I liked it. But most of the areas you're just kind of running and like trying to figure out like, well, can I get up to that roof? Is there anything up there? There is, but it's not worth it. But yeah, put a little more time into that. Seems cool. Cool. It's just I probably didn't add the best companion game to play along with it. because I started playing Persona 4.
Those are a little bit different kind of games, but they're both very
time consuming.
Yeah.
And
a little strenuous. Do you have a Vita?
No,
so you're not playing the.
No, my brother. So here's what happened, because I've made it well documented on this show. My brother does not buy new video games, and he definitely doesn't play them. But he loves the Persona series, and I've never played them. And he's always been trying to get me to play Persona 4, and I want to play Persona 5.
Yeah.
So he's getting ready to move shortly, so he's not going to have access to the PS4 much longer unless he buys his own. And so I told him, like, look, if you bought Persona 5, like, this would probably be your best chance to play it now. And I'll play Persona 4, and we can do, like, because he has the digital version on our PS3 still. So I downloaded that and stuff. Like, he bought it in a sale, like a year ago. So I was like, yeah, you play Persona 5 and I'll play Persona 4. And by the time we're both done, in theory, I'll be caught up on the series and you'll have actually played something from this year. What a novel idea.
Yeah.
And people have been telling me for a long time, Persona 4 is excellent. It was a game that, like, I had to talk to him about, and he kind of had to school me on how it works, because every time I hear about it, it sounded stressful. To me, it seemed like a lot of schedule management stuff, because the game keeps track of everything in days,
right?
Like on a calendar, and that's how, like, the whole story progresses. And anytime I heard about it and they talked about, like, alternate endings and stuff, I got, like, real Majora's Mask vibes, which is never the vibes I want from a game, because I like good fucking games. You people who like Majora's Mask are fucking crazy, and I hate you. But, like, so I started playing Persona 4, and I think I put maybe 2 or 3 hours into it, and I haven't, like, the game hasn't seemed to, like, give me real control yet. Like, the intro is really long. It spends a lot of time telling the story, and I kind of appreciated something it did that other JRPGs with long intros don't do, which is it'll have these cutscenes and these dialogues where it's like, maybe we should go see what's down that hallway. And in other games, they'll give you control of the character just to go down the hallway, and start another cutscene.
Huge pet peeve.
This game doesn't do that. This game's like, let's go check out that thing. And if it knows there's going to be another cutscene immediately, and it's not teaching you anything, it'll just go to the next part. So I'm kind of thankful for that in a weird way, but I'm still sort of like, when do I get to, like, play? Like, when do I get to, have some input here?
That's the trade-off. Because I can't remember, it's probably like Final Fantasy 15 when I rented that, or there was something I played recently that was like that had like a half-hour long intro that it didn't do a whole lot. I mean, a lot of that, like, making you just walk down the hallway stuff, but it still was like, okay, when do I get to play the game, though? So it's kind of a balancing act, but...
Yeah, and like, I'm now kind of getting to the point where, like, I finally got my Persona. I did, like, the first kind of really easy, but, like, teach you how to fight a boss sort of deal. But I still haven't, like, gotten that. Like, the only time I can move my guy around is when I'm at my house, and that's to, like, save. And then you go to bed, and then the next fucking day of cutscenes and dialogue happen. But I'm liking it. I'm liking the kind of fucked up, like, story, the fucked up serial killer story going on. Like, all through the lens of this, like, supernatural high schooler fucking investigation team thing. It's pretty like, yeah, it sounds ridiculous because everybody's like, yeah, we knew that when the game came out on the PS2, Ben, but it is really a pretty novel approach to, like, a story in these games. And, like, and I kind of wanted to just play something normal, like, in terms of JRPGs. Because I've had Final Fantasy 15 sitting on my desk forever, but I don't want to play that. Like, I want to play like a turn-based thing, you know, like I want to scroll through a menu and take turns bopping each other on the head until one of us is dead. Like, I don't think that's crazy, and I don't think it's crazy to expect that from Final Fantasy games, but they wanted to change shit up, so I have to go elsewhere. But I mean, yeah, so far, like, you know, I don't really have a lot of input as far as playing the game goes, but I like what they're setting up. So I've been doing that, and then the only other thing is the Prey demo. And
yeah,
I don't know
you didn't sound
that.
too... no, I downloaded it and then haven't touched it, but...
Well, I will say this. Something tells me that game will be a lot better on PC. I didn't like it at all, though. Like, so it really does kind of feel like a System Shock, sort of like a modern System Shock. Like, it really kind of blends that BioShock and like Deus Ex vibe to it. But it doesn't have like the mechanics of a Deus Ex. So everything just sort of feels really stiff. Like, there is stealth and there is, you know, like all the options of a Deus Ex game, but it's not presented in a way like Deus Ex is, where it's like, all right, attach yourself to this wall and, you know, like here's all these stealth pathways to get through an area or something. Like, they make it a lot more like bare, where it's like most of the demo, it's just hitting these spider alien things with a wrench.
Yeah,
and
nice.
It's well, yeah, not really, because it's like, imagine the fucking head crabs in Half-Life,
Right.
only more like quicker, and you're slower, and you have to be so fucking accurate with your goddamn wrench. Like,
Well,
I was just,
a wrench is just not a fun weapon to give somebody in a shooter anyway. Like,
I disagree. I loved it in BioShock. I thought that was a perfect opening, like, you know, fucking get out of your goddamn tub and like bop this guy and bop those guys, and oh shit, that's a big daddy. You can't hit him with a wrench.
Well,
Until later in the game when you freeze him and then like you beat the fucking piss out of him with a wrench. You know, the wrench is a fine starter weapon if the game is made for it. And like the enemies you fight in a BioShock are like, those are normal, like people, well, not normal, but they're like, they're people size
right
things. Like, these things are the size of fucking, you know, head crabs, and they're fucking annoying. Like, it's kind of a neat idea. They're called mimics, and they can like take the shape of, and the, you know, they look like chairs and random items around the level. So you'll just go up and try to like move something and like, oh shit, it's a mimic, and then you got to fight it. And that's kind of a neat idea, but like, they're just not fun to fight. And then once I started getting more weapons and stuff, like they give you like it's this like glue shooter thing, like shoots these blobs that like freeze the enemies, but it doesn't kill them. So I don't really know what the fuck it's for, because they eventually break out, and it takes so long to like switch to another weapon and get up to like hit them that like there's no real point to it. And then the pistol's just the pistol. And that's as far as I got. I died in the demo, and it was one of those things, like, I wasn't even that mad. I was just like, I don't like this at all. Like, I don't like how this feels. Like, how you look around is really sluggish. The story did nothing for me, what they set up.
Sounds like a mouse and keyboard could solve some of that, but...
Right, and that's the vibe I kind of got from it, is like, yeah, maybe from a gameplay standpoint, that would be a little better. But I don't really care about anything going on here. Like, the game's kind of weird. Like, it has a Dishonored kind of look to the characters. Some of the characters. Like, your main character looks relatively normal. But, like, I don't know if they're setting him up to be the big bad guy or what. But he's your brother. And he's just like this fucking cartoonish blob of a human being. Like, and it's just so...
Oh, is he the one with like the big ring around his neck, like the...
Yeah, and he's just like, I'm not saying he's like Jabba the Hutt, but he looks like Jabba the Hutt after lipo or something.
he does look way more cartoony than the main character. Like,
yeah, and some of the other characters you meet in the intro are kind of, it's the same thing. Like there's a style here that like it worked for Dishonored because Dishonored was more fantasy, I guess, and like that setting lends itself to that art style. But this really seems like they just like took that art style and put it in a sci-fi game instead of doing something like unique to this. So maybe somebody at like Arcane just thinks this is what humans look like. But it's really weird, and I thought it was kind of distracting. And then the story is just sort of, corporate or whatever the fuck conspiracy in the midst of like alien parasite attack. Like that's all the vibes I got out of it. Like that's all the story I could really grasp from my time with it. But I didn't have fun with it. Yeah. That was the big part. And to be fair, I wasn't expecting much. When people were like trying to hype that game up, everything they showed about it, I was like, it looks kind of boring.
Yeah,
honestly.
well, I mean, it's like what I said last week is I predicted it'll do fairly well, and I think people will like it, but not me. Like, there was not one thing about it that I really...
Yeah, like I've seen people say, like I've seen people kind of echo my thoughts, but I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, it's great. It feels like a spiritual successor to, to the System Shock games I loved or something, or original Deus Ex. And it's like, okay, but for me, like some of the improvements that have been made to shooters didn't get translated to this one. Like I said, like you can't really describe it very well, but it's just like, especially with something that's demanding precision from you, like hitting a small moving object with a hammer or a wrench or something, like the feel of that has to be good. Like it has to feel fun to play. Otherwise, I'm not interested. And in this case, like I definitely don't think I would check it out on consoles, and like PC honestly is a long shot just because nothing else did anything for me.
Well, and that's one of the problems, too. It's one of those genres where if you're not super special, then there's a million other things. Like, it's kind of one of the
I feel like every game has that problem right now.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't appeal to you immediately with, like, the best shit, there are a million games out right now for people to play. And there's people like me who have all this shit to play, but you, like, play Persona 4.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. It'll be interesting to see like your final thoughts on Persona. I played Persona 2, I think, the PSP. It was for the PSP, and it was like one of the remasters.
Yeah, I think they put like 1 through 3 out on the PSP.
Yeah, I think it was PS2 or Persona 2. I know
there's
PSP is
Persona
the thing,
2,
but
it
was and it was called something like. Whatever, but I think that's the one that I played, and I liked it a lot. I kind of got away from it because it's really long, and the dungeon segments, and I don't know if it's still like this or if it stayed like this throughout the newer ones, but like every time you would go and delve into the dungeons, which is a really cool thing, but like just their design visually was always the same. Like there was no progression. The enemies would get different, but you were always like the same like bland hallways and the same like textures, and it just...
Having not played those and haven't really gotten far into this one, I can't like confirm anything, but I will say the setting, like how they set all this up, like the dungeons you go into are all in like the TV realm where these murders are happening. So you like literally like you and your friends are like going into a TV at like a mall to like go solve crimes and shit and go into these places. So the TV, there's a lot of room. So there's a lot of room for imagination.
Yeah. And I imagine that's something that probably has changed, because it came across to me as just kind of a system limitation at the time, because not of the PSP even, but because that was a remake of I think it was Persona 1 and 2 were originally PlayStation 1 games, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I was looking at this last night because I wasn't sure. I only know like my brother started playing with 4. He went back and played 3, and now he's playing 5. But he never played the first 2. And I realized like Persona 2 is 2 separate games with different subtitles, but I think they were all on the PlayStation 1. If they were PlayStation 2, that's really fucking weird and kind of fucked up, because I saw some screenshots and they looked pretty bad, but I don't know. But that's all I've played is a smorgasbord of fucking Japanese shit, and then I played the Prey demo and ran back.
I did get to start, a game that I fucked up its name every time I said it last week, and on Twitter every time I tweeted about it, but Little Nightmares, not Little Monsters, which stars Fred Savage and Howie Mandel. Terrible movie. I always hated it, even as a kid. Not because it was like scary or anything, it was just a dumb movie. But anyway, Little Nightmares.
Hot take for you.
Yes. Little Nightmares is not a dumb movie. It's a really, really cool video game. I haven't beat it or anything yet, and I imagine it's not real long. And it gives me a lot of Inside vibes. I mean, Inside's the thing that it immediately reminds me of, although it's kind of less silhouette-y, like less black and white. And not Inside
Different
was black and white. Yeah,
is what I kind of picked up. Like a lot of people said, it's kind of like Inside, but Inside is almost like this bleak,
industrialized,
horror thing, and like this seems more like a dark fantasy horror.
Yeah, well, what it reminds me of is funny because I'm not too. I don't have too much pride to admit. Like as a kid, I loved shows like Fraggle Rock and even just like the Muppets and stuff. But it reminds me of like the I think they're called Gorgons or whatever, the bad guys from Fraggle Rock. Like the big, like there was always those shows, dinosaurs, Disney's dinosaur show with the animatronic dinosaurs. They always kind of creeped me out. Like not in a I need to sleep with the nightlight on sort of way, but they were just disturbing. And that's what the enemies in this are like. They give off the like creepy, like gigantic puppet vibe, and everything's trying to eat you. And to be fair, even where I'm at, there hasn't been a ton of direct contact with living enemies. It's been mostly environmental platforming. There's been a few instances where like something will come and you'll have to hide, and they're terrifying. But I like the setting better than I liked Inside. I like Inside, I think, handled the control a little more eloquently. This gives you actually 4D motion, so you can move not just left and right through the scenes, but forward and back. But with some of the kind of like, I don't want to say disjoint, that's not the right word, but some of the camera angles, they use like the horror movie camera angle tricks too, where things will be like slightly askew. But that means if you're pushing left, you're actually moving left and slightly forward, and that sometimes leads to you like walking off of platforms, like from like the front edge of the platform, like whatever.
Yeah.
So that's been a little bit awkward. Nothing so bad that it's like, oh, this is uncontrollable or anything. But in that realm, Inside definitely nailed it. Inside was just such a natural game to play. Like it just, you picked it up, and that's what it did amazing to me. But I like the setting in this better, but it's same type of platforming puzzle horror game, and I would say if you liked Inside, you'll probably like Little Nightmares. So I've enjoyed what I've played of that so far, and like I said, I have no idea how far I am through it, but I've played it for maybe an hour, 2 hours. What I've been playing mostly has still been Bloodborne. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's one of those.
Hang on, we got to do our Bloodborne.
Yeah, so thanks for watching the podcast this week. Now we're going into Bloodborne or Soulsborne. We'll call it the bonfire chat. Oh wait, no, that's taken. But no, last week when I talked about it, I was like, so I don't want to say frustrated, but like just felt like so intimidated because I was up against like 3 different brick walls. And a lot of that's what's so amazing to me about this game is like most of it is optional shit too. But it's just like once I know it's there, I can't just leave it be. There's like no way I want to go finish this game and know that there was this adversary that I walked away from. But I had
there was one boss I didn't fight because I talked about it in the diary, but I was like, this guy isn't doing anything to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those, it's a fucking Nier problem where it's like, the guy's not attacking me. I'm not going to fucking start shit.
I kind of have
They're good people.
I'll get to something similar to that too here, but the three that I was stuck with was the Crow Hunter or whatever, the Hunter of Hunters. I forget what the Bloody Crow I think is called. He doesn't really in game have a name. It's just what the community ends up calling him. But he's the Hunter of Hunters that ends up mortally wounding Eileen and whatever the Crow.
Eileen.
Yeah. And he's just a bastard. And and it's like we talked about last week. Like I cheesed him with this like stairway thing, and it still doesn't. Then by no means makes that a guaranteed fight, but it helps. Right. And it still took a couple attempts, but I got him. And it's like cool. Like there's really no reason I had to kill him because other than I can't use that lantern there until he's dead, but I don't really need it at this point in the game anyway. But he's badass. Like that like Crow Hunter, like the Crow feather garb or set or whatever, is really awesome. So it's like I want that. And again, it's like once I know he's there, I'm not going to be like, well, that guy's too much for me. I'm just going to ignore him. The three hunters at and I'll say this completely wrong, Yarhar Ghul, the Unseen Village. There's the three NPC hunters that are in the like one cathedral-ish area. And they're just a bitch because individually they're not that tough, but all hunters in that game and all the NPC hunters that you have to fight are not easy by any means because they're fast and they have the same tools that you do. But then there's fucking three of them at the same time. And then I came across a strategy online that is so fucking cheap that I loved it, where you go down to the very bottom level and kill, there's like one of those silver beast things. And then you can open a jail cell and kite the hunters down there and close the cell door before they get in there. So then they can't get to you, but you can sit back and like use the Holy Blade's what I used in its R2 in its trick form to just stab them. Like a couple of their attacks can still hit you, but it keeps them all from like ganging up on you at once.
Isn't that like the most fucking like Souls thing though? Yeah. Is like you find an exploit, but it's like you could still die, but it makes it easier.
Right? And it was interesting too because on the video that I came across, it showed me this tactic. The one that has the tinnitus or whatever. I always call it the tinnitus, but that's what you get in your ear when you're losing your hearing and you get the ringing in your ear. But the electrical weapon, and he'll like shoot a bolt at you. In the video I watched, the bolt would hit the guy if he didn't dodge. But in my game, I don't know if it was changed in a patch or something, but it would hit the jail cell and it wouldn't come through. And that's like one of the bigger attacks that you have to watch out for because it almost one-shots you. So it's really just the hunter, and I think it's the same hunter. He's got a whip, and that can get you because it's got a long reach. But other than that, you're relatively safe in that jail cell. And it's like the corniest way to do it, but it's like, ha ha ha, fuckers. And then this one was interesting because I had kind of been exploring Canehurst Castle when I first got to that area and just like managed to get all the way through it and like stumble into that Martyr Ligarius fight. Like I didn't realize that was going to be a boss area. I thought I was finding like some secret, to get to it, you have to go up to rooftops and like drop down. It's not an obvious path, but that's another Souls-like thing where if it's like, oh, well, this is something that like not everybody can find. Well, it turns out this is a whole fucking boss fight that would be easy to miss because especially since it's not required, like it's completely optional. But so I stumbled into that fight and got my ass kicked because he's not an easy boss, but I hadn't tried him again. So I thought I better do that. It was hard. It took me a little over an hour, but a lot of that was I ran out of vials and shit, so I had to go farm again. But I ended up beating him too. And that's one of those fights where when you finally beat him, it's like most of these fights. It's like looking back at it, I really wish I could like go to an arena mode and just like refight some of these bosses. Because it feels like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. He really isn't that hard. Like, he's considered one of, if not the hardest bosses in the game. But he's really, once you know his patterns and know what to do to like counter his attacks, it's not hard. It's just if you fuck up, his hits, he can one-shot you.
I don't know. Like, I mean, to say hard builds an expectation up in people's head, but like hard doesn't mean unfair. Like when people say, it's that thing we always talk about with these games. When you say hard boss in Dark Souls, most people think like the fucking bullshit moments certain bosses can give you. But like the final boss of the Ring City DLC for Dark Souls 3 was hard as shit. But after I beat it, it was like I could probably do it multiple times because I've gotten so much practice at it.
Right. Like I'm not confident enough to say if I had to fight him again, I'd win 100% of the time, but probably 50% of the time because now I know what to do. and he was one of the bosses. Cause sometimes you beat a boss in Souls or Bloodborne and you feel like, oh fuck, I got so lucky there. If I had to do this again, that probably wouldn't happen. And he's one of the ones when I beat him, I didn't like, it wasn't like I was out of blood vials and I beat him with like a sliver of health left. I didn't feel like I got lucky and beat him, which is cool. But that's where I get to my like kind of that Nier thing that you were talking about. Cause I knew, like I said, I haven't been 100% avoiding spoilers. I haven't been going out of my way to like read everything either, but sometimes you get sucked into the lore and then you'd find things out. And that whole storyline with Alfred and Martyr Ligarius and the Queen, I don't remember her name. Queen, like Amelia, not Amelia, but something like that.
So yeah, whatever.
And the whole Vile Blood storyline, you know, they're it's as obtuse as anything in those games, but you know, I knew enough about it, and it's like I kept expecting Alfred. But my problem, I think, was that I knew enough about it, but I didn't go out of my way to read it. And so, like, when I first got to Canehurst, I'm like, well, where's Alfred? I thought he was supposed to show up here. And it's like, and then I also thought I was supposed to meet the Queen before I come across Martyr Ligarius, but that you have to beat him in order to get access to the room that the Queen's in. So I beat him and I get access and I talk to her, and she actually, that's how you can join the Vile Bloods. But this is one of those games where it's mimicking me in real life, where it's like I just want nothing to do with anybody. It's like, no, you Vile Bloods don't seem great either. I sure as hell aren't joining the Healing Church. There's the Legion. I'm like, but no, you seem kind of bad too. It's like I'm just gonna keep doing my own thing. You guys all leave me alone.
Yeah, I joined them, but like I wrote that in the character diary as like my character being a fucking moron and not knowing what he was doing.
Well, in fairness, that's how I
serve.
That's how I feel as a player, though. Is like they do such a good job of like, even if it sounds like the most outwardly great thing, like, oh, join us, we feed orphans and make sure that they live forever, and you're like, cool, that sounds noble, and then you join and you're like,
I don't think it was anything like that. I think I spoiled for myself. Like you get something if you join them, and it was like I wanted that thing.
Yeah.
So.
But I knew that what happens is eventually Alfred goes and kills the Queen because that's his whole, you know,
his mission.
Yeah, that their mission, and then whatever. So when I like talk to her, and then I go back, and Alfred is still like by the Cathedral Ward where I first met him, and I talked to him. I'm like, I couldn't get him to go there, and I was like, oh, his quest, I must have missed something, or his quest got bugged. So I just killed Alfred, and I'm like, fuck it. Because I never liked the guy anyway.
Well, fuck, the universe is broken. Yeah. Die.
And then I come across, I was reading something today, and it's like, oh yeah, once you talk to the Queen, turn to the right, and there's a letter on the table. Give that to Alfred, and he'll go to Canehurst. It's like, oh, well, he died for no reason other than I didn't particularly like. But between the two, out of all these factions, though, the Vile Bloods are the ones that I think I can sympathize with the most. So I'm not unhappy that she won't get ripped to pieces.
Well, here's the fun. I'll spoil that for you a little bit. If Alfred goes there and like fucking just mutilates her, he'll I think he either goes away or he kills himself.
He goes back to where you first meet him and he kills himself because he feels his mission's completed or whatever.
And fun thing after that is you can revive the Queen.
Well, I knew she couldn't like truly die. That's part of her storyline, but he just smashes her to such a pulp that there's just like flesh.
You can actually, I believe you can actually put her back together, and it's so good job, Alfred.
Well, that would have been a much more satisfying thing to make him kill himself and then undo what he did, because that's the whole thing. Is he feels like his master's gone and he served his purpose, but he also wants to be a martyr like his hero, so he kills himself, and then you could undo it. Man, that would have been more satisfying.
Well. But I didn't do all that because I couldn't. Well, I'm like you. I didn't fucking like Alfred at all, and it was I just wanted to get my shit and get out.
Yeah, that's what's funny is when you attack him, he's like, "Why are you attacking me? There's no need for that." I'm like, "Fuck you." By this point, I'm so like leveled up, like he wasn't even a hard fight. It was just like die.
Yeah.
So the 3 roadblocks that I had last week, and I literally, when we did the show last week and I was talking about it, I had that like I'm never going to get past these feeling. But I got past all of them, and not only that, but then I got to continue on through like the main quest line there through the Unseen Village, and kind of stumbled into Dark Beast Parl, and actually beat it on my first attempt. So I was fucking stoked because I could tell it was one of those things that we talked about last week where you're either going to beat it or almost beat it, and if you only almost beat it, you were going to have to fight him 100 times.
I don't think that's how it went for me though. I think I did lose the first one just because I wanted to see like his attacks and shit.
Well, and you don't. I had an NPC summon that helps, but I think
I got him like second or third try.
I think part of the people's problems with him, because he's another one that a lot of people, when I read about it, are like, oh, it's so ridiculously difficult. He's fast and he can do a lot of damage if you back off, but he's one of those ones that really reinforces the Bloodborne like. Because he swipes at you, and instead of trying to dodge it, you dodge in, and it's almost a Sif thing from Dark Souls 1. Like, try to stay under him. The closer you are to him, actually, the less effective his attacks are. Or her, I don't know. I kind of got, because I beat Dark Beast Parl, and I also beat the one Reborn on my first attempt, and that one I don't think you can have a summon, or maybe you can, but I didn't. The one Reborn's a pretty easy fight, as long as you go up top and kill the witches. Like I can imagine if they were up there throwing,
which I didn't do.
Yeah, that would have made it an infinitely more complicated fight. Yeah. So between the two, though, I thought Dark Beast was the harder fight. But like afterwards, because I do this thing since I've been playing where as soon as I beat a boss, like not literally like I'll pause it, but as soon as I'm done playing that, I sit down in it. But if I beat a boss, I'll run to like Google and YouTube and try to find out as much about that boss as I can, as far as like the lore and stuff. Yeah. And between the two, I think Dark Beast Parl is like by far the more interesting. Like I spent half the day yesterday, like I kept like zoning out, like trying to think how Parl connects to not Alfred, but the church member that was obsessed with like the lightning attacks, the bolts, the one that invented bolt weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, because everybody, the going theory on that is that Dark Beast Parl was like a assistant or just a test subject of his. And it's like, but as far as I can tell, you never come across this guy, even in the Old Hunters DLC. And it's like, there's no reason it couldn't be him. Like maybe he got so obsessed with that. I mean, like
looking up just the wiki for it, it's saying that the assumption is that the beast is very old and ancient. So it's like, I don't think, like the way they talk about it is like, this is,
just like
a relic from a really old time.
But because I read that too, but like the one thing that kind of is interesting to me is the way you get to him. At least one of the ways. I think there's multiple ways you can get to that courtyard. But the way the main way to get to it is through the prison area of Yarogul or whatever, and you enter the cell. And the cell, you can see something has tunneled its way out of, and if you follow that tunnel, bam, there's the beast. So it kind of gives the impression, it's like, and this is probably boring to anybody that might watch this that doesn't care about Souls for this particular reason. They don't spell anything out. It's all up for you to infer this stuff. So like I see that and I think, well, whatever this beast was at one point in the cell, and it could have been in the cell as the beast, or it could have been like whatever transformed into the beast, like mid-transformation, like as it was going turning to whatever. But I did see that the assumption is that it's a very, very old creature.
It was Archibald you were talking about.
Yeah, Archibald. I knew that.
But what I'm reading is it's saying like the reason he created the Tonitrus and like bolt paper is because he liked Like
he was kind of obsessed with the Dark Beast.
He liked how the Dark Beast Pearl like was electrical. Like he liked the energy coming from it. So,
but it's just one of those things where, because I've seen all those theories, but there's really nothing concrete to back them up other than just like that's.
Yeah, I mean, and that, I didn't answer your tweet, but I was going to tell you, like, there is no, like, you could be right. Like, this is one of the areas of Bloodborne that is, very vague in a story that's already pretty
right. Well, and because it's another completely optional boss fight that would be completely easy to miss, like.
Yeah, but the way they talk about it is, I guess there's another Dark Beast in the one of the Chalice dungeons, and like this one isn't the same as Pearl. So maybe there are more than.
Yeah, from what I read, there's 2 or 3 Dark Beasts that you can possibly come across, but I think the others are all in the Chalice area.
Yeah, and I didn't do most of those, so.
Yeah. So there's that, but it was really cool. I've gotten through the one Reborn, and then I just haven't played since. No, I take that back. I beat Pearl in the one Reborn first. I beat Martyr Ligarius last night, but I didn't have a whole lot of time to play. But, beating Martyr Ligarius basically wraps up that Canehurst area, other than the Alfred story we were just talking about. So, like, now it's kind of on to the Nightmare Frontier. I was trying to look, because I haven't gotten into... I've unlocked everything I need to go to it, but I haven't done any of the Old Hunters DLC stuff yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I'm going to Google, and this is like the worst thing to Google, because it just, like... drives you nuts. But it's like, okay, what's the recommended level for the Old Hunters DLC? And the reason it drives you nuts is because Soulsborne games don't really work that way.
I mean they will recommend a level to you, but like,
it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. And then your answers you get are even worse, because then, people are like, well, I did it at level 40. And it's like, yeah, I doubt it. But and other people are like, well, I recommend at least level 150. And it's like, yeah, I don't even know how to get to that level.
Dude,
like,
no way.
Because you can't do it once you without beating, once you beat the game, you can't go back to the Old Hunters DLC. That's why I want to do it.
Well, you can.
If you play a new game.
Yeah. But, like, there's the final boss of Bloodborne is final bosses, if you're doing the, like, real ending.
Yeah.
Which just means you have to collect like 4 things.
Yeah, and I plan on doing that, but
yeah, because the final boss is pretty fun. But it's a real obvious, like, all right, go through this gate in the Hunter's Dream, because that's where all the shit's happening. But you can still go back into the game world and stuff. And so you're like, I mean, if I were playing it now and I wanted to do the Old Hunter stuff, I would just do all the main game and then like go do that once the Hunter's Dream is on fire.
Yeah, I heard not to do it before you kill the wet nurse, but from what from what you just said, that's what I thought. It's like, it doesn't seem like that matters as long as you don't progress on to the final boss fight. But
yeah, I'm trying to remember how you get to the. Oh, you get grabbed by the fucking. All right. I won't spoil that because it's a pretty cool moment. But I just remembered how you get there, and I mean, technically you could go there whenever you want. And like,
I heard it sounds like it's really fucking hard though.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
Well, I think the biggest thing is it sounds like most of what you're fighting there is hunters, and those are the hardest fights in this damn game.
I mean, as the typical amount of like normal hunters, but the enemies you fight are more like they're common enemies. They're not as tough as regular hunters, but their fighting style is a lot like hunters.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that first one, as soon as you get to the DLC, those are the first things you're dealing with. But yeah, I mean, like I'm pretty sure there's no reason you can't like they don't lock you out of it.
No, it's just you can't beat the game, because once you beat the game, it's yeah. But and I know I'm getting closer, to that.
Yeah. Honestly, I would like if it unless there was something that like locked you out for some reason, I would do the wet nurse fight, and then like that's probably after you've done that, you're probably good to go.
Yeah. So and I think I'm getting there. I think there's one main boss fight before the wet nurse. One of the great ones.
Did you do Mikolash?
No.
All right, then.
No, I think I take that back. There's got to be two because the Mikolash. I think because right when you first get to the Nightmare Frontier, I think the boss of that area, and maybe it's optional. I think it is, but there's it starts with the A. Everything starts with the A.
Amygdala.
Yeah.
Is I think that boss fight is optional. There's still Mikolash. There's it's always labeled on guides I read as a boss fight, but it's not really. And I think it is one of the great ones, but it doesn't actually really fight you. It's kind of more like an environmental puzzle. And trying to think. And then there's Margot.
There's the great one that the Healing Church communes with. I forget her name. The sister something.
This is a great show. I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Fucking
for a game that's
enemies.
like three years old. I forget who. I was just reading about it. And her name, I know it starts with an E. I can remember the first letter of everybody's names, but that's it. But anyway, so yeah, I'm still. Oh, Ebridius, Ebrietas.
Yeah,
Daughter of the Cosmos.
That's the one I didn't fight.
Yeah,
because she's just chilling, like there's no reason to. And then that whole area, there's there's the I forgot what they call it, but the Garden of fucking Aliens. That's a fun fight. It's not that hard. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, the aliens are something that even from what I've read, because I've reading more of the end game lore, so like I know what the three different endings are. I don't know what they mean. It seems from what I can tell, nobody knows what they fucking mean. Like they're relatively vague.
I mean, I could hold my own in a discussion about them, but nobody knows what the fuck that game is actually trying to say.
Right. So I've read a lot about that, but it sounds like the what do they call them? The Cosmos people. I don't know how they come into this. Like, are they related to the Great Ones? Are they a whole separate? I think they seem like a whole separate entity. They seem like almost a middleman entity, like kind of the transition between our world and the Great Ones.
All right, so I'm going to talk out my ass a little bit here because I don't fully remember, but I want to say that their thing is that they were like the people who like first connected with the Great Ones, and like they started like getting pumped full of like fucking knowledge and shit, and that led to inflated heads and all that crap. I want to say that's kind of their story, but once you start getting to the alien shit, that's when that game like kind of goes full Lovecraft on you, and you kind of have to just roll with it a little bit. And just accept like, all right, any semblance of understanding what the fuck's happening here is kind of out the window.
Yeah, it's kind of gone the opposite direction that the Souls games have for me, where the Souls at first seem like they don't make any sense, and then you start to piece it together. This one is like it starts off pretty vague, and then you're like, I got what's going on here, I get it, and then it's like, haha, just kidding.
Yeah, like the setup for Bloodborne is actually pretty simple, but then it just gets incredibly like once you start realizing where the werewolves come from, that's when you like it's not so easy to just be like, oh well, then this isn't like we keep talking about the fucking blood, but really there's like
Yeah, like that has I don't want to say very little to do with it, but that's just a part of the story.
Yeah, well, the real question is, what is real? You know? And once you're having those fucking questions, like, I love Bloodborne's story, but it totally leaves you in like, God damn it, what is reality? Really? You know?
Yes. So it's been a good ride so far, and it's, I'd say, close to the end, but not for, especially if I want to do all the extra stuff. There's plenty more Bloodborne to play.
Yep. And cherish it. This is great.
Yeah. My plan is to finish it up right like the week before E3, where they're definitely going to announce Bloodborne 2, even though that goes against everything that they've said they want to do.
Okay.
And then it's going to be one of those things, too, that they pull in Activision, where they're like, it's E3 and end of July or whatever, and game hits mid-August. And you're like,
no, they're
sweet.
making Dark Souls World War II. So.
That's what we'll get. We'll get like a Soulsborne. They'll combine the two, and it'll be an online MOBA for PC.
How fucking great would that be? Fucking Activision bought the Dark Souls franchise. We're gonna make one every year, and the
next one takes place in outer space.
Yeah,
technology and stuff.
We got guys from Game of Thrones for it. Yeah, that'll be fun when that day comes. Anything else you've been playing?
Those are the two that I've been playing. We talked about, and it was curious because I'd been like, it's been almost impossible if you use Twitch to not see it. But it was something that I didn't think you'd be even remotely interested in. But that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which congratulations to them, they hit 2 million copies sold, and they're still in early access. So that's awesome. And that's
really
for them.
Cool. Like that seems like, I remember talking with my friend about games when you're young and you're just you're not bogged down in what you could actually do in a game, and he always had this idea for a game that was just you're just dropped into a battlefield and it's chaotic and stuff like that. And it wasn't this type of game he was talking about. He was thinking more medieval war stuff. Yeah. But I get that vibe from it. Just a game where you literally parachute on an island and try to survive, out survive everybody and be the last man standing.
Well, it seems to be this new genre that's coming around, because this isn't the first. There's a couple games that have all kind of hit, but the other ones all kind of felt flat. And then for whatever reason, I don't know.
Well, a lot of them, this guy made it. Originally, these were all from mods he made from Arma and H1Z1, I think. And then he was just fuck it, I'm just gonna make Battlegrounds, and it's really hit with people, and it's kind of janky and stuff, and everything I've seen from it is it's not this polished game, and they're still technically in early access.
But from what I've seen, that jankiness is part of what gives the game its charm. Yeah.
The Giant Bomb guys have been playing it, and there's just a hilarious point where the perimeter is closing in on them, so they have to get into the circle. But the only way to it is across this bridge. And they're on foot, and they're trying to get there, and they're not going to make it. So they find a dune buggy on the way, but there are only 2 seats, and there are 3 of them playing. So one of the guys tries to hop onto the dune buggy. But as soon as the guy starts driving, the game takes that as you running him over. So he's taking damage and gets knocked off. And then just the hitbox for the car is so fucking unreliable that his friends, he's all right, just go, I'll find another way across the bridge. And the dude drives by him and runs him over and fucking killed him. So I know the reason. It's kind of it's this weird impulse thing for me where it's it looks so fun. It looks like a game I would really like if I could just find people to fucking play it with. Because I don't know anyone who will play that shit with me.
It seems like a game that would be more fun with somebody, but it seems like one that you could do some interesting things playing solo too. Because really, it's supposed to be everybody for themselves. I don't know if you can officially team up with people.
No, you can. You group up. Yeah.
But yeah, it looked like a game that could be fun. I was trying to think of, there was one that came out. Oh, it's really not out yet. But it hit early access like last year at some point, called The Culling, and everybody was getting kind of interested in that. And it's the same idea, and it actually ended up not running for me. I got a preview code and I was like, sweet. And then it just kept bricking my computer.
Yeah. I believe that one was more
that's like
true
Hunger
to the
Games-y.
survival genre, though.
Yeah.
And that, like, there's a lot more resource management and stuff.
Right.
Like, this one hits the sweet spot, I think, for me, where there's not like a lot of like management. Like, it is survival, but it's combat survival. Everything you're finding, all the supplies you're finding, it's like, oh, I found a backpack. It's not to like carry fucking beans in. It's I can put more fucking bullets in my backpack.
Yeah,
you know.
And there's what are some of the other ones? I keep wanting to say like DayZ, but maybe that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure that, like all these games, if they didn't have,
like
these
that,
modes built in, they had mods.
Yeah. But it looks like fun, and it's something I've considered. It's just at the I don't take this as me saying it's unfairly cost or priced, but I think it's $30 or $40. So that's kind of a bigger.
30, I mean, I have an offer right now that I could get it for 24 on Green Man Gaming, but they had to send me a code for that.
Yeah. So it's a bigger purchase, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it's not worth it. But it's just when I have 100 other things I'm playing right now, then it's not worth it.
But right now it's just one of those things that like I slapped on my Steam wish list, and hopefully I can get a job and get my finances back in order, and then I can pick up some stuff that I missed.
And then you get that wonderful, delicious adult irony of I have a job and I can afford games now, but I don't have time to play because I have a job.
Energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
back to that old chestnut. It's been fun the last few months having time and games to play, but
it's running out.
It turns out assholes are like, hey, we have bills. It's like, there are always bills. We need to shut down the government, man.
Shut it down.
Men weren't expected to pay bills. All right. We didn't say anything about that in the Declaration of Independence. Right.
We have a right to bear arms, but it's not, they don't have a right to collect money from us.
Yeah, if
for
you
the goods
put your arms up against my arms, winner gets money,
But
we'll do that.
I don't think we have any big, good gaming controversies this week like we had last week.
Darksiders 3 looks like a pile of shit.
People are excited for it, though.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't show much in the trailer. They just showed who you were playing as. They showed war chained up. I liked Darksiders 2 okay. I didn't think it was an amazing game, but I enjoyed my time with it for the most part. And I know a lot of people really like those games a lot because of the art style. But I have to say, I think these games look fucking bad. I think the character designs look really stupid. And I think the character design of Fury is really terrible. I think she looks really bad.
It was interesting because, graphically, it looks like I really liked how smooth the characters look. Because, it started out, Darksiders 1 was a pretty old game. Sure. And so, to see them as, modern model, characters, that was cool. But, yeah, I agree. They just... And
she doesn't look like a character I would want to play as. She's like, oh, she has a whip, and it's like whips are notoriously stupid fucking weapons for action games.
Yeah, well,
so that's not selling me.
I think whips are pretty stupid weapons in general. In very specific situations, are great weapons, but throw in
gonna Bloodborne that shit. And,
or the enemy can has a chair they can pick up and be like, haha, now your whip's blocked and wrapped around the chair, sucker.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whips, the only way games have been able to do them so far really has been it's a whip, but it's really just a snaky looking sword
on a chain or something.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't like it. I don't like how it looks. And really, I know a lot of people are like happy that like they get to keep the series going, but I'm just sort of, after the first one, like you played the first one fairly recently and you were not.
No, I wasn't happy with it at all.
No, and I played the second one and it's kind of like, what? Why is this still going on? Is it really going on because it's like this sacred, like underappreciated gem of like action adventure games, or is it like just going because people wanted to play a game where you play as like dipshits and impractical armor? I don't know, but hey, to each their own. I think, I can't get over how stupid the visuals looked, and I thought that about War, honestly, in the first game. Like I saw Darksiders 1 and everybody was like saying like, oh, this is great. This is like a darker sort of Zelda thing. And I was like, yeah, but the guy you're playing as looks really stupid. So I'm going to just not play it.
Yeah. What it kind of reminds me more of is that, what's it? And a lot of people love him. It was like if you're a vampire, it's an old game. I think one of the first like 3D like adventure games, and I forget what it's called, but you played like a vampire-like character, but it was like that, like the weird like proportion.
Legacy of Kain?
Yeah. And I had that same kind of like oddly proportioned character thing, and a lot of that was due to the era in which it came out and the limitations of the animation and the modeling.
Well, this was just, this is an art style, and I know, like, I don't know the guy's name, but I know the artist for these games is really, like, well respected by and when you're online, no matter what you do, you're just going to be ending up following people who are, like, animators and stuff, so they are very hyper sensitive to art. Like, I don't mean, like, they complain about it or anything, but I mean like that's like the first thing they pick up anytime anything's shown off. And so I think there was a little bit of that, because I remember people were like, if you gave Darksiders 1 a negative review, there were so many people who were just like, this is bullshit, he didn't like the art style. It's like, because it looks dumb, dude. Like it looks like parody of like, this is what a tough action hero with a big sword and shit.
Well, and I think part of it too is just different things speak to people differently too, because I know we'll talk about you were talking about Dishonored. I think we talked about it when the first one came out. It's like I appreciate what they were going for with Dishonored, but I hate the characters like models in Dishonored. I absolutely hate them. I get it's kind of that like boardwalk caricature animation of them, but it's just in the lighting and in the actual motion of the game. When you're playing, it's not as noticeable, but like in the cutscenes and stuff, like I've never liked Dishonored's overall, like the outcome of it. Like I said, I really appreciate the style they were going for, and then there was the other one that you mentioned, BioShock. Really,
I don't mind those styles so much. But like I can see what you mean.
Yeah,
like for sure.
It's just different styles that appeal to people differently. I mean, there was people that absolutely hated, how Breath of the Wild looked, and I think that's gorgeous. But
Breath of the Wild's interesting though. Like it's like I like a lot of it visually, but there is something kind of like, and it's why, like, since I've played Breath of the Wild, there's just been this mental battle in my head between, is it better than Wind Waker? Because Wind Waker had so much fucking personality to, like, all the characters felt very, like, full of life, and just, like, they did a real good job bringing that style to life. And, like, in Breath of the Wild, the characters kind of have that, but a lot of the characters seem really stiff. But yeah, like to say that, I think it's crazy to say either are bad looking games, but
it's fun to say on Twitter if you're intentionally trying to piss off Nintendo fans.
Yeah, if you never played.
Yeah, Nintendo fans, you gotta love them. They're the easiest ones to like troll. I don't know why, but
because they're so. Because you shouldn't be like self-proclaimed Nintendo fan. I don't think like not that you should be ashamed of being a Nintendo fan, but just be a video game fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I wouldn't
and
shy
Nintendo
away from.
has made a bunch.
I wouldn't shy away from saying I'm a Nintendo fan, but when I say it, I'm not precluding Sony or Microsoft or PC for that matter.
Sure, but I think like honestly, if anybody's saying I'm not a Nintendo fan, like I would say you're probably lying. Nintendo had to make shit that you would have liked, but maybe you didn't have the money for it.
Well, there are those
just
people though.
Yourself.
Nintendo's very like cutesy in their like visual design and stuff, and there's those people like I've met adults that think it's absolutely ridiculous that any adult would watch any kind of cartoon.
Man playing Mario.
Or like watching Shrek. Well, Shrek's terrible. I hate Shrek, so that's a bad example. But like, you're an adult and you're going to see Toy Story. It's like it's a good movie. Like, but there's certain people that hit an age and they think like after a certain age you can't watch anything animated or cartoony at all. Like,
I don't want you to feel joy in your life. You're a man now. Cut firewood.
But so there are those people out there.
But those are bad people. Yeah, they should be shamed.
They're the same kind of people that like don't like dogs.
Yeah. Well, I don't like dogs anymore. But
could be worse.
But now I'm like the opposite. Is like normally people say like I don't like dogs, but I like my dogs. I like every other dog on the planet. I hate my dogs.
Except your dogs, yes.
But yeah,
this has nothing to do with anything, and it's always great to do a call out, a reference that nobody listening would even know. But I noticed Will Harrison tweeting about his cat. It's had some medical issues, and he said, and now maggots are coming out of its ass.
Yeah,
and it's like that sounds like yeah, that sounds like a nightmare to me. Like I thought it was the intro to Bloodborne 2. Like that sounds like one of the bosses you'd have to fight.
Well, I think he's in Texas too. So
Tejas, yeah.
I don't fucking go there, and don't bring your pets there, because
terrible things happen apparently.
Yeah, I have never had that problem with any of my animals.
No. Although I've seen those shows on TV, and they're nightmare fuel, like the
parasites. Hell yeah. Dude.
Yeah, like I forget what they called it. It's like world's weirdest ER visits or whatever, where they're like, oh, this person went to Mexico for a fun vacation. Now bugs are coming out of their scalp. And it's like, oh, fuck, I'm never going to Mexico.
Like people have worms that come out of their ass, and that's terrifying to me.
Well, there was a woman that, and it was...
You're becoming a fucking Bloodborne monster.
Exactly. Like, one of the stories was this woman on her wedding day, like, she kept, like, her head itched really bad, and like her mom's of course yelling at her like, you're gonna mess up your hair. She's like, no, it's like it doesn't feel right. And they finally, like, everybody thinks she's just got the jitters or whatever, and they take her to the hospital, and even the doctors at first think she's making it up, and all of a sudden they notice a maggot pop out of her scalp and then go back in. And she had got bitten by some fly that laid eggs under her scalp, and these things were like peeking out but then going back in. And they had to sit and like pull them out. And I'm like, nope, that's when I say, just shoot me in the face. Like, I don't want to live anymore, because no matter if you get them all out, like,
I'm going to feel them.
Yeah. Like, for the rest of my damn life. Like, oh.
I'm going to hear their cruel voices telling me to eradicate humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I imagine it going.
So we live in a terrible, terrible world. But
no fucking shit, dude. Like, I hate those goddamn shows. They make me goddamn sick. I have nightmares about them.
Now, on the flip side, that's the same show. They had the cool story, and I had heard it before, but the guy, and of course it has to be on Halloween night, he shows up to the ER with a hatchet sticking out of his head. And like, they're kind of like all treating it as a joke, because they think it's, some, like, one of the hospital staff putting them up to it. And then like finally they realize, like, this guy has a fucking hatchet sticking out of his head. And apparently what happened is he was waiting for a city bus, and some guy came up to rob him with a hatchet. He didn't give him the money, so the guy hit him in the head with a hatchet. And when the guy, like, didn't, like, flinch or, like, fall down or scream at all, the guy attacking him kind of freaked out and ran away. And this guy was just in such shock, and it missed anything vital, that, like, just walking around with a freaking hatchet in his brain. Like...
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Which is also really,
all be so lucky.
Which is also really cool when they figure it out, because then that's one of those things, because this is how stupid the world is. It's like, oh, this hatchet went in and didn't cause any damage, but if we yank it out, it could kill you instantly. It's like, okay.
Fuck.
Right. So that was a very intensive brain surgery. But yeah, those shows, I like those like interesting ones. Anything to do with bugs, and there's just so many like, oh, they went to Cancun and got bit by a fly, and now there's spiders coming out of their eyeballs, and it's like, nope.
Yeah, like because like I grew up fucking reading Spider-Man comics, so like my thing is like, when do you get the good parasite that makes you a superhero? You know, when do you get the Venom suit?
Right.
You know, the symbiote. You always get the goddamn parasite that's like, oh, I want to put my babies in your ear. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, how did humanity live as long as it has?
Well, this isn't any better. As we're talking about this, somebody just replied to Will's tweet and they said, oh, they're flea worms. Well, fuck, that's two terrible things.
Yeah, Jesus
Like,
Christ.
it wasn't just a maggot, which is one bad thing. It's a flea worm. Like,
I'd probably have to shoot my cat.
Yeah.
Like, I would have to just
I'd be like, sorry,
little buddy.
I love you, but I can't risk this spreading to humans.
Yeah,
like,
you're a problem. This is how it starts. I take you to the vet, you infect everyone.
Right.
I gotta put an end to it here and now. Yeah, but like, I've been having kind of a creepy couple days with my animals. Like my bitch face the dog is, I think, already training to haunt me. So she has this waffle ball that she loves to play with, right? And I never want to play with her ever. I do it begrudgingly because she has a lot of energy, and I hate her. But I go to do laundry, and I shut the door, and she didn't follow me like downstairs to where my laundry room is. So I'm moving all my clothes and stuff. I open the door again, and this waffle ball's just in the middle of the doorway, and she's nowhere near it. Like, she's nowhere nearby. She just left the fucking ball.
Crawled.
So she's training for that.
Yeah, she snuck in there as quietly as possible and just dropped it there. Like,
yeah.
I thought you were going to say you keep turning around and she's just sitting there behind you, like, just staring at you.
Fucking that too.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of used to that. Like, she's the ghost I've gotten used to. And like the crazy old women who think their houses are haunted but think they're friends. Yeah. Like, oh, that's just Donna. She keeps me company. Like, yeah. But then like my fucking cat, my goddamn genocidal monster of a cat. I go to let my dogs out, and I have to like take them out on a leash and shit. It's annoying, but so I'm letting them out, and on my back door there's this big red thing that I thought was like a toy or an apple or something, like, and no, it's a bird heart. And then like the bird's feet are like tore off and in like two separate spots by the door, and fucking feathers are everywhere. And I'm just like, thank God these fucking animals are like, a foot long. You know, like if they were any bigger, he would just be a fucking tiger.
Yeah, but that's why you get things like, because we don't have a whole lot of vicious things down here, but just a little bit south, like within an hour's driving distance south, because as soon as you leave my town going in a southerly direction, it's all the forests of Ohio, the Hocking Hills region, and going down into West Virginia. And they do have like bobcats. And in fact, the school I graduated from, the Ohio University, the OU Bobcats. And then so you always hear all of these bobcats and they're vicious cats and they can kill you. And then you see one at the zoo and you're like, it's barely bigger than a regular cat. You're like, it's kind of cute. But you're right. Like, you add like 10 pounds to any house cat and it could kill an elephant. Like,
yeah, they're. You realize that they only play ball with you because you're bigger. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and that's why I've like come to be pretty scared of big dogs. Is like, because they know that like I don't actually have any control over them.
No, I'm dog stupid, because I'm one of those people that you see a dog, not like the big dogs, but like even like the 60 to 80 pound dogs, and you're like, I'm much bigger than this thing. I'm like, I know it's got teeth and stuff, but it's just a dog. And then when you see them like go beast mode, you're like, oh wait, it's only 80 pounds, but it's 80 pounds of nothing but teeth and muscle. Like, we're no match.
And fucking instinct.
I don't know.
Like, it's.
And given it's like physically we're screwed. Like pretty much any animal on the planet is better physically equipped to live than we are. So then it's like, oh, well, we made it to the top of the food chain because we're smart. But look at your average like person on the street. We're not that smart. So like, how the hell did we survive long enough to become modern humans? Like,
yeah,
all it would have taken was like one smart saber-toothed tiger and we'd all be fucked. Like,
so this is, sorry to cut you off, but back to, we were talking about Prey and how it might play better on the PC. We didn't mention that the PC version doesn't have this demo.
Which is a wonderful sign usually.
Well, the director said PC has Steam. Steam players can just return the game, so it's like a demo already. Except it's not. That's not what a fucking demo is. That's a refund policy.
Yeah, you'd think you wouldn't want to encourage people to use that either. Like, I think if I'm a game dev, the last thing I want to do is point out a way to buy the game and then get your money back.
And if you're going to put a demo out at all, like, the whole point of putting out a demo, which I like demos, they let me know if
they don't work in every situation, but yeah.
Yeah, because there have been demos like Prey where it's like, all right, this doesn't do anything for me, but I wouldn't have bought Nier if I didn't enjoy the demo. So it's just this fucked up like way of looking at it, where you should want to do a demo for PC. If it, like he says it's always annoying when you see companies and like from a PR standpoint, they do the right thing first, but they keep going. So he's like, yeah, it was a resource thing. We weren't able to, put the resources to doing both. We had to choose between console and PC. And, so we said, the lesser of two evils would be, excluding PC from it. That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
Don't try to spin it as like the refund policy is like a demo.
That means you really want people making their one and only final decision on whether to give you money in the first, like, we'll say hour and a half, because you want to have some padding there so you don't go over that 2-hour limit.
Sure.
Like, a demo lets you play it a couple times and really make up your mind, and then you're saying, oh, well, they can play it really quick, and if they don't love it right away, get their money back and never buy it again. It's like, wait, that's what you want? Like,
right. Well,
now, like you said, and out of the two, I doubt it had anything to do with, that's like a demo. It had 100% to do with what you were just saying about resources.
That's right. Yeah.
That's understandable. I mean, it's mostly gamers are going to complain and call you stupid no matter what you
do. It's annoying.
Right.
But it's understandable. But that's all you need to say. Like, just shut up once in a while.
Or if that's the case, you could say, well, PC will get a demo. We just couldn't get it out prior to, it won't be a pre-release demo. Right. But, of course, you don't necessarily want to say that then either, because then PC gamers will wait to buy your game. But yeah, I mean. But
I mean, if you're putting a demo out, the whole point is to like generate hype for your game.
Right.
No hype comes from like, yeah, I bought it once it came out and I didn't use my refund policy. Like, that if that's like the thing that like your PC audience is going to be saying at best, like, cause those reviews, it's going to be full of people like had to refund it. Fucking didn't work. Or I didn't like it, so like you should try to put the demo out on everything. There's no reason to, especially something like this, which is such a fucking clear PC shooter. But whatever.
Unless they did the console first and they know that the PC port kind of sucks, because that could be the case.
Possible.
Right.
I mean, Dishonored 2 was fucking rough. Yeah. Also, a rumor is, I guess some are saying the new God of War could be out this September. That seems really early.
That wouldn't shock me, though. I mean,
it kind of depends what we see at E3 from it.
Yeah, but
like,
I mean,
how much
it's being one of Sony's like flagship franchises. I'd have to think it was probably a lot further along when they showed us last year than what.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, they're saying September 14th. So, they must have some sort of grasp on.
Yeah, which would be interesting. I'm interested in seeing more, because I don't love God of War. I don't hate it, but it's just not a game I get excited. Like, anytime a new one's coming out, I'm like, not like, oh, right, can't wait to play God of War. But I really liked the tone of what they showed us. It was all just like, well, I guess not a cutscene, as some of it was supposedly gameplay. We didn't get a whole lot though, but it's just like the tone of everything seemed. It almost gave me more of a like Tomb Raider-y, like Uncharted, like God of War vibe, like almost more story focused, but still with some like badass like monster fights.
Yeah, like anything that's not typical God of War, you'll get my attention.
And like I said, I don't have anything against typical God of War. It's just it's one of those mindless brawler. Like I wouldn't pay $60.
That's what I have against it. Is right. It's always been that, and they've made like fucking 6 or 7 games of it now. Right. And it's like I'm all right. We're done.
Well, but it's like the perfect like $10 game, but it's never $10, or the perfect free game, but it's never free.
See, there are other games like looking at my wish list. There's a million games that are $10 that I would rather play than more God of War. Like a kind of traditional God of War, I think, had its time. If you were going to keep doing that series, this is the way you do it. You completely overhaul what a God of War game means. Like I think it's kind of a mistake, honestly, to like bring fucking Kratos back. Because Kratos is a pretty shit character.
Yeah, but that's what's interesting, though, is you're bringing him back, but in like this old man father Kratos. Like, is that going to force him to change? Like, right. Or even if he doesn't change, that could be a very interesting narrative. You know, he's the shitty father. Like, he seems like he's not like the shitty, like abusive father or anything. He obviously cares, but like, will his character faults, like, how will that affect this relationship with his kid? That could be interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm pretty interested in the game. It just seems to me like we've only really seen kind of that one thing from it. So something tells me this is going to be one of those games that gets like, if it is as close as that rumor is making it seem, it's going to be one of those games that I think gets pushed back, and then like we see it in like February or March next year. Just because I feel like we always get like 2 or 3 of those every year.
Right.
And I think Sony would be like, if it wasn't ready, it's not something they would rush out, because, God of War is a huge name for them. And they would probably look at this year and like, we got Horizon out. We got some other stuff coming. We don't need God of War in September. They would probably want it for the holidays, but we'll see. Yeah, this is just a rumor based off of like, more stores setting up pre-order dates and shit. So you never know with those things.
Yeah. Well, and I think that they've figured out now.
Kingdom Hearts 3 was supposed to come out in December 31st, 2009. So.
Yeah, and I guess that's news we got within the last week, is that that's not coming out this year, but that's not. I say it's not shocking. It's kind of one of those like.
I love that can be a headline though every year for someone, is like, hey, game's not coming out yet. Yeah, no fucking shit. It's never. Just write the article when they say, hey, it's coming out finally. Like, but
with a definitive fucking date too, not like
right.
Oh, we're looking at quarter 1 or 2 of next year. Yeah,
like,
no, but yeah.
After the fucking millennium clock resets, and we'll be back in 2017 part 2.
Somebody was talking about all their games like coming up at their end of the year that they want to, and it's like, I haven't even got that far yet. Like I keep forgetting about a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's stuff that I don't personally care that much about. That's why I'm forgetting about it. But
I've just started kind of looking into later in the year. Like Call of Duty World War II interests me, but more in like they're playing with my nostalgia a little bit.
Well, and as much as I love to make fun of Call of Duty fans, they're good, solid shooters. It's just they haven't had one that's been specifically like interesting to me. So, I mean, like any year a Call of Duty shooters. Comes out, there's like that chance that I'll pick it up anyway and enjoy it. I just haven't.
Well, they're good shooters, and Call of Duty 2 was kind of like the first shooter I got really like fixated on. And there's like, like the other games, like once you've played that, like if you started there, how the series progressed, it always felt familiar, but it never really like by going to World War II, there was a pace to the gunplay that you couldn't get once they went to like Modern Warfare and Black Ops and stuff, where like every shot fucking counted. Because you're like so much of your weaponry is single shot rifles and stuff like that, and like I've always liked the tension of that, and like I played a shit ton of its multiplayer, so the appeal of going back to that is pretty strong. I also heard they were going to probably do like a remastered collection of like the Modern Warfare games. Which kind of interests me because people say like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is like one of the best shooters. Yeah, for some ever, definitely in that series. And I never played it. So, like that kind of interests me. But at the same time, I'm also still recovering from last year where I played so many fucking shooters. So that's scheduled for November. Another Marvel versus Capcom coming in September.
Cuphead
Yakuza
somewhere up there.
Cuphead doesn't have a date yet. Pyre doesn't have a date yet. Nidhogg 2 doesn't have a date yet. They're doing a remake of the first Yakuza in August, which interests me, but I still need to play Yakuza 0 too.
Yep.
So that's kind of a fucked up. But that will the remake for the first game will only be $30, I believe. So that's
since I always get these so confused. I'll Google while. I was thinking. No,
Middle Earth Shadow of War will be in August. Crash Bandicoot is next month. Jesus. But yeah, I don't know what the end of the year really holds. I try not to think about it because there's just so much shit to do now.
Yeah. And then there's stuff like Flint Hook that just came out.
Yeah, that's not like the shit on my Steam wish list is like a priority above all of this stuff, and I'm at like 27 games. Like I want to play Edith Finch. I want to play the Sexy Brutale. I want to play Battlegrounds. I want to play Little Nightmares. I want to play Mr. Shifty. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, but I love the name. I've heard
it's kind of a Hotline Miami, but like more comic booky, and it looks like it doesn't look amazing, but it looked pretty fun. I want to play Flint Hook. I want to play Hollow Knight. I want to play Yooka-Laylee. I'm still the one guy who wants to, but hasn't already.
Well,
everyone else has played it and regretted it.
I guess that's worth mentioning, though. I did see that they're currently working on getting ready to put out a patch for that. That's going to do things like allow you to speed up or skip past like the dialogue and tone down like the ambient dialogue. A lot of little things that I think will really improve it. I mean, it's still going to have the basic gameplay is the basic gameplay, but it's not that bad. I hate the bosses. But those games, like you mentioned last week, aren't necessarily about the bosses anyway.
But and that's not a defense of the game, but because they shouldn't have put them so many in.
I mean, putting a bad thing in, you can never be like, well, it's not about that. It's still there and it's still bad. But I mean, it'll be a much more playable game if this patch can do what they say that they're doing with it. So that'll help. Yeah,
it sounded like they were putting a lot of effort fixing a lot of the major things people were annoyed with. But I mean, I think if you are hoping that this game will solve all that game's problems, it probably won't. But, hopefully it puts a dent in some of the issues people had with it. I like that they are making that effort, though, to try to, patch it up a little bit. But yeah, it's just, there's still, I want to play everything. I don't know how much you've seen of that.
A little. It's on my wish list. But it first caught my attention because I get the email, Steam, everything is on sale. And it's like, what?
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks, Steam.
And it's like, and I think it said like something like it was worded, everything is 20% off on Steam. And it's like, cool. I'm like, cool. I don't see how that's possible because how would because developers and publishers that own the games have to agree to that. We all got
together and agreed that our stuff should be 20% off.
But it was one of those things. It wasn't like as soon as I read it, I was like, obviously everything's 20%. But it was impossible for my brain to parse it. So I opened Steam, and then it pops up as, this game, everything, and of course it's on sale because pretty much everything on sale.
You buy that game, and then everything on Steam
goes
is on sale.
But so yeah, I saw it because of that. It basically melting my brain with its weird name.
That's the thing. Like, it looks like a game that's like both dumb and smart, where it's like it'll give you like a witness sort of like lecture while you're playing it at various points. That's like all about like philosophy and just a bunch of other shit. But it's a game where you're like, hey, move these bears around, and like the bears don't move, you're just rolling them. and so it's like this, like, what a delightfully dumb little thing this is.
Right.
Is also maybe very smart. You would have to play it and see like how deep it goes. But it looks interesting. It's like $15, so
And then there's another one that I saw a day or two later that it just looked in. I haven't looked in to see exactly what it even is yet. But if I catch something that I want to remember about it, I'll throw it on my wish list too, so I can find it. It's called The Wild Eternal. And it kind of looks like it's I don't know, you just kind of like go around and like build the world. I don't know. I probably shouldn't bring it up because I don't even know what, it's like kind of an exploration. I like these games way more than I should. But it has kind of a neat style to it. And I like kind of more laid back exploration where you're given some kind of fantasy world that the developer came up with and you get to explore. And that's what it looks like. As long as it doesn't have... Most of these games get thrown into the survival genre now, though, and that can get really frustrating. It's like, I want to explore the world, but there's nothing to actually find, but I have to eat berries every 5 seconds or else I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't looked that much into that. And then there was one that I saw today, Avon Colony, which is kind of a cool-looking, almost like a Sims or something, but in space. Like, I don't know. I really like the kind of town building stuff too, more than I probably should. Both those exploration and the town building things always fall into this like weird thing for me, where it's like I like them, but not enough to get so obsessed about them like the hardcore fans do. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Lots to fucking play, and I haven't made it any easier on myself. But yeah, that could probably be our show.
Probably.
Talked a fair bit.
Yeah.
And
then
my dogs are saying that's the end.
Yeah, I can hear that. They're like, shut up now before you start getting back into Soulsborne and going down another rabbit hole.
Bark, bark, bark is actually dog for I'm a ghost.
I'm a ghost, yeah.
Boo.
That's way more obnoxious than like the whoo, like, yeah. That I think I could put up with. If there was a ghost that you couldn't possibly shut up that was either a barking dog or a crying baby. Those are like the two worst, like, cannot deal with sounds.
Yeah. Why do we do this to ourselves? Like, humans just invite things that make like the worst sounds on the planet, and it's like the only time I want to hear a baby crying is if I'm playing like a horror game or some shit. Like any and somehow that would be less scary than like just having a crying baby on a plane. And it's like, and I'm not one of those people like, could you take care of your fucking, like, I won't yell about it, but I hate it.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. I'm the same way, because it's like, well, it's a baby on a plane, of course it's going to cry, and like you need to fly somewhere, but it's just, it sucks.
I will be as unreasonable as possible in my own head and be like, no, you had the fucking baby, you should be trapped in your house with the baby forever. Because
you put a muzzle on that thing.
You've committed. You tried to play God and bring life, and now you shall pay by never going on a plane again. But I don't actually like. There are people who can be real fucking dicks about it.
Yep.
And I don't know. Like, I've been on plane flights where like I don't know what like you're trying to do, dude. Yelling at a mother who's like doing her best. Like,
that's the thing, is it's frustrating when we've been in like movies where, and I don't know why we're going into a whole nother conversation branch here, but where
we gotta
the kids
close this out stronger.
But kids are like, just like, I'll say running amok, because I love that phrase, but they're just like,
that's
being
what kids do,
right? And they're being like just terrible little brats in the movie theater, and it's like, if the parents are like frantically and embarrassedly trying to like rein them in, it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, it's annoying, but I get it. But more often than not, the parents are just sitting back, not fucking doing a thing, like not even acknowledging that their kids are being terrible, or if they are acknowledging it, all they're doing is like, I said stop that, but not doing anything to actually make them stop it.
You need to sit, and it's like, while that's going on, the kid is fucking hanging himself from the projector room.
Right.
It's just like, you need to sit down. You're like, you need to get up and get your child.
Yeah, that's the difference. If they're trying and it's just not happening, it happens. If they're not trying, screw you.
Yeah. Well, you gotta be fucking careful,
right?
With kids, they're psychopaths and they're suicidal. They don't even know it. They don't even know how much they hate life. They think they love it, and then they fucking want to do everything in the most obnoxiously dangerous way possible. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, in my head, I think you should be under house arrest.
But you just won't scream that at 9
years. Yeah. Right. Anyway, on that note, that is the show. That's a better note to end with. A nice life lesson from two fucks who really shouldn't be teaching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Follow us on Twitter at Njoystic for the official feed that I never tweet from. Other than to say, hey, the podcast is starting. So like once a week you get at least a reminder. Of course, follow us here. And there's our little names below our faces. You can follow those too. But yeah.
Follow the names.
Yeah.
Follow the faces.
Yep. I'm going to just keep ramping up the volume on this music back here that neither of us can hear. And we'll call that a show.